I'm with the Upshur County Citizens Corps Council, and we do have a pet shelter trailer, a trained team in place. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about that today. First thing I want to touch on is just a little bit of history. A lot of this may be repetition from Roy and upcoming presentations, but the best way to learn is repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. So we'll take that. In 1974, you had the Stafford Act, named after a senator. And basically what it said was, I'll learn this. Its intention was to encourage states and localities to develop comprehensive disaster plans, prepare and better in intergovernmental coordination of a disaster, in the face of a disaster. They encouraged insurance coverage, provide federal assistance for losses due to the disaster. That was the start of it all. In '88, they amended that act with the Stafford Act, and basically it said, declaration of an emergency, presidential declaration, triggers a financial and physical assistance through FEMA, and it gives FEMA the responsibility for coordinating the government-wide relief efforts. And this is what we do today. Well, after Katrina came the PETS Act of 2006. It amended the Stafford Act, and it covered quite a few things. It set to include requirements for jurisdiction for planning for people with animals. It specifically states that all cities must have a pet plan in place to receive FEMA funding. And as you can see here, FEMA funding eligibility is dependent upon compliance. I don't know if they're enforcing this or how it's being put together, but I can see that it becoming a major issue, and it will be looked at tighter and tighter and tighter as we go along. All emergency evacuation plans must include policies and procedures for evacuating both service animals and household pets. With that said, Upshur County got a grant. We bought our pet trailer. That's basically a picture of the trailer. We keep them housed at the airport with all the other OEM and emergency response trailers. It's a very safe place. It's fenced, it's guarded, and we have access to it at any time. It's very high, so we don't worry about flooding and things of that nature. We received it in around 2007. This was before my time. I've only been with them about 3 years. But this is the initial setup. The setup of the trailer and an inventory, and the start of the very first team. The Stafford Act with its changes required it. West Virginia Homeland Security Region 4 grant in 2007 bought the trailer and equipment for us. That's what we paid for it. Along with that, in 2009, the Upshur County OEM developed a response plan, animals in disaster plan, and it included Lewis and Upshur counties. I brought it. I'll pass it around if you all want to see it. You can go ahead and start that if you want. It was done with the State Emergency Response Commission, an SERC grant in 2009. We did it through a private contractor working with the OEM. I think, Roy, that was yours, according to what Jim said. We're very, very fortunate in Upshur County to have an OEM like Jim Ferry and his assistant, Jim Farrell. We call them Jim 1 and Jim 2. They're very proactive. They are part of our animal response team because they're very animal conscious, so that helps out tremendously. Here's another picture of that 2007 familiarization. The joint team from Upshur and Lewis counties. Training was conducted in 2011. Summer had some input on that for us. We trained, about 14 people from Lewis and Upshur. And the team is made up of CERT volunteers and OEM staff, which is nice. And the current team leaders are actually 2 people from our Citizens Court Council who are also team CERT leaders. In March, we had an exercise. Boy, those pictures are terrible. They had the Bluestone Dam exercise scheduled, and it was canceled or put on the back burner. Region 4 went ahead and did an exercise of a mass evacuation. And so we took the opportunity as CERT to call out our animal response and our comfort trailer. We take care of both of those in Upshur County. And we set them up at the Armory. It provided a complete setup and inventory of our trailer and equipment, both the animal shelter and the comfort station. And it provided them to practice and learn, all team members, and we got people to come out. I was surprised. We have about 160 CERT members. We did a mass call out, and we said, look, if you can just come out and sign the paper that says you were here, you don't have to stay. We actually had 50-some people come out and stay and help, which surprised us all. Again, this is another picture of the pet. That is the pet trailer, and that's the assembly of the team. I can't really see this fella and this lady are our team leaders for the pet, and they're gathering their team together. This is what it looked like after we set up. We have the pet shelter set up back in here and off to the left. And then this was all our comfort stations from the comfort trailer. We put up cots, we assembled, we set up cages for the pets.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you set it up so that way that the people can stay there with their animals, like they don't have to be out of a separate?
Yes, you'll have another slide, I'll talk about that, but yes, you're exactly right, and there's a reason for it. We did this here, they are too close together, we knew that, but we were on a limited space here, because there was other things going on. Like I said, this was Region 4, there were representatives, and it was like, and this was also the ICS for that exercise, so we were just kind of jammed for space. But yes, we do.
In reality, you're going to be jammed for space in a disaster.
Most likely.
So,
I mean, we were told right off the bat from the health department that we didn't have enough space between our cots. We knew that.
Reality is you're not going to have enough space. But
I understand what you're saying.
I've had a lot of people, like, it's been very, I'm new to this, and they just sort of threw this at me and said, here you go, this is what you're doing.
You do the best with what you got.
And they're like, here, I work for the hospital, like Brenda and I, and they're like, we were going to start a CERT team at the hospital, and here you go, have at it. And by the way, you're going and taking these classes, and I'm like.
I always say it's better to do what you have to do to get the job done, and you can say oops later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in a disaster, because during the Duranti, and we don't have a disaster, we are not set up as a shelter at the fire department. But I happened to be at the fire department. We were having the fire department picnic that day. My fiance's in the department, and people showed up with their animals. What are you gonna do?
And I'll discuss that as well in depth. So.
And I'm not one to tell somebody, I'm sorry, but you can't be here.
And
Or I'm sorry,
I'll talk
you
about
ate
that.
too many hot dogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I understand. And that was the reason for all of these changes in the Stafford Act, you know, that they realized that people care about their animals. You know.
Right.
Some of the equipment that was included in our trailer, we bought it all as a package. I believe it came from ProPack. Like I say, this came before I was part of it, but we got the 16x7 trailer. We have 75 cages in 4 different sizes. Cat carriers, collars, leashes, ID tags, and other tracking devices and material. There were actually log books in there where when people bring their pets, you track them, you give them a number, you put all the information in the log book. I have one of the leaders wants to computerize that, so I think, you know, he's taking steps to try to do that. Pop-up canopies, tarps, heaters, cooling devices, pressure washers, generator power cords, lighting, feeding and watering bowls. We did find an issue on our watering bowls. They had the, what do I want to call, the cereal bowl style that had the sides that came down like this. Well, guess what? A pet steps in it and the water's gone.
Yeah.
That came from ProPack that way. So we want to look at buying the water bowls that have the wider bottom. Local agreements for providing food and veterinary care. We did that locally. I believe it's in the plan. It might be. We have a couple of veterinarians who are just willing to help anytime. We have our Southern States, Walmart, Kroger's, all those resources for food. They are more than willing to help. They want to help. In fact, when we had the Duranti, Kroger's and Walmart called our fire department because that was our downtown center for gathering all material, and they donated all their food, and the fire department cooked it all up and then took it out and distributed it to everybody. So, I mean, it was really great. And we work with animal control and rescue efforts. Good example, if they decide that they found a puppy mill and they're going to crack down on it, they might call us and say, we anticipate having 25, 50, 100 dogs or cats, whatever it may be. We don't participate in the rescue, but we'll set up the shelter for them to bring the animals to us where we can take care of them. Our basic theory of operation, and this goes towards the question you asked, is to deploy the shelter, trailer, and team whenever local evacuation shelters are set up. That way people can know that their pets are being cared for, they're near them, and through the entire emergency or disaster. It encourages people to evacuate their homes. Exactly what Roy said happened. We set up shelters, but people would not leave. One, we're a rural area. West Virginians take care of themselves. They'll stay home. But a lot of them will stay home because they can't bring Fluffy. So hopefully this encourages these people to come. Some advantages: having the shelter adjacent to the evacuation shelter allows pet owners to interact with the pets. We want them to come and water, feed them, walk with them, play with them. This, kind of eases the situation a little bit for both the pet and the pet owner. Less stressful. They don't know how long they're going to be there, and it just helps ease their minds. It takes care of the pets. Everybody makes it, it's more tolerable for everybody.
You said you have cages for your animals. Now, take for instance, you have a person that comes in, their dog never leaves their side. What if he says, my dog is not going into that cage, he cannot leave me? What do you do?
That's a good question. I don't have that answer.
We have somebody in the back.
We were traveling through the northern part of New Mexico at one point, and got snowed in. And it's along the interstate, so they knew that the whole community knew it was going to be one night where everybody who came from either direction was stuck. And when we went into the local community center with a Stafford Terrier with us, it was a rescue because we were moving it from one place to another. They said, fine, just keep that in the middle. Take your family and make a circle around the dog, keep the dog in the middle of the family. And you can do the same thing with that, where you take the cage, and you put it between the two cots owned by the family. Nobody else is going to make that pass through there. Put it in the middle. Put it in the case.
But some shelters may have that issue with the pet being in there around other people.
Well, but if you've got the case, if you've got the collapsible cage, then the pet can be with the family in the middle. But in this case, in the case of New Mexico.
But still it's an issue because you might have little kids who want to go up hands in.
That's right.
In a pet-friendly shelter situation where the people and the pets are in the same building, they have to comply. They sign a contract that they will take care of their own pet, that they'll feed and water, that they will treat it humanely, those type of things. Because we have had people that are abusive. We've had people that ignore their pets. We've had the gamut. You know, humans, things happen, especially when they're stressed out from a disaster type situation. But they have to keep up with that animal. And there have been times when animal control has to seize that animal and remove it from their care, and they have to go to their respective shelter. But they have to sign a contract. During a disaster, you cannot have your ideal setting. You don't live in a perfect world. We have to give up a lot of comforts, and that pet is going to have to as well, even though it's maybe stressed. That human can obviously hold that animal and not have to keep it in a cage 24/7. They can go walk that animal if, you know, if the area
Absolutely.
permits and play with it. But it has to be caged when it doesn't have human supervision. It just has to be, because you have different people in there that may be allergic, children that don't know better, etc. So you have to conform.
There has to be some control at the shelter also, because you have a team, and so that pet just sees nothing but a lot of strangers. So, you know, they're just going to have to adapt to the cage. So, yes, it is a situation. Yes.
What about people who have personal assistance dogs?
Well, that's a whole
They
different
have to
area.
stay with the-
That's a totally different area. Those dogs are trained and everything, so yes, they stay with their
That's
master.
a federal statute.
Yes.
No one can deny a personal,
Right.
sort of a seeing eye dog or that type of thing. No one can deny those from a building.
A problem I'm seeing is people are, like you said, Fluffy, he's one of those dogs, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Their pet is one of those, no matter what. They're claiming their pet is, what's the word there?
Well, there's
Part
a
of the family.
difference. There's a difference
Yeah,
between a certified
That's-
therapy dog
Right, that's.
and an actual, and I cannot think of the term right now, but there are differences. And there are some that are covered under federal statute, and there's some that it's pretty much just a tag.
Right,
It doesn't really mean that much. And people get them so they can fly with them easier and they can do things, but they're not a necessary need to live.
Is
if
it
you will.
reasonable for us as shelter operators to ask to see the officials?
Yes.
Yeah, it goes back to like,
You're
excuse me.
referring to promotional pets?
Yes.
Because it's not from the airline industry.
Yeah.
We can deny them promotional.
Okay.
Similar to the special needs type pet.
Yes.
Yeah, most of these working dogs, the seeing eye dogs and therapy dogs, they have a thing on them.
Right.
So you can tell right off the bat
But
what
you
they
can,
are.
but there are companies that distribute what they call licenses for therapeutic pets and different things that do not meet the federal standards. So there's different
A
qualifications.
therapy dog is not a service dog.
Right.
Right.
By federal law, a service dog
Right.
has to be permitted to be with its owner, not a therapy dog.
Right.
But you know, it boils down to one thing too, it's just like security in this country. Everybody knows that after 9/11, everything changed. We want security. We want our pets, but there still comes a way of controlling all of that. And you do have to give up some of your rights to have a secure situation, just as you do with your pets. So there has to be some concessions made on everybody. And that's what you got to try to get across. What's the future for animal rescue and shelter programs in Upshur County? As Roy talked about, large farm animals, larger animals, horses, cows. What's some of the issues? Transportation, vehicles and trailers, areas large enough to hold equipment and replace some of the older stuff we have. That's an issue. And funding, the big question everywhere anymore. The grants are drying up. Where's the money going to come from? A little thing that you're ready or your pet's ready, and I have to. Like the booth out there has a lot of this information. I didn't know that at the time I built this slide, but to me it looks like common sense. If you have a go bag, your pet should have a go bag. This is just some of the things. Can you get your pets together with their carriers, their leashes, or whatever you need to control them? Do they have collars with their name, your name, address, title, phone number, food and water, a 3 to 5 day supply, a photo, veterinary medical and medication information, and their toys. You know, gotta have their toys and know where you can go. If you're evacuating and you're not going to a set-up shelter such as we set up, you have to know where hotels, friends, relatives, pet-friendly places to take you and your pet. And the last slide, how could we leave that behind? That's our baby.